Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to the PAS Expertise. It is a webinar series sponsored by PASCare, India's leading employee benefit management platform. I am Deepthi Chenjeri, your host, heading the people and culture at PASCare. Performance analytics is the backbone of any review system. It provides a systematic and data driven approach to feedback or goal setting, contributing to improved individual and organizational performance. Regularly analyzing performance metrics ensures that the goals remain aligned with the strategic objectives and that continuous improvement in a core aspect of the organizational culture. It's a pleasure to have you all join us for the exciting webinar on performance analytics, data driven feedback, and goal setting. We're honored to have our guests today with us. They bring in a wealth of knowledge and experience to this discussion. Our guests for today are Saurabh Kale, Head of People and Culture with Talent 500, with 15 years of experience in talent management, organizational development, and HR business partnering. He's a coach at heart, loves technology, and experiments with behavioral economics. Our next guest, Sarlaksha Ganesh, often called Sasha. She's a people culture professional with 13 years of experience, a firm believer of product thinking approach. She uses a data driven method to build and scale the people and culture function. She holds a PhD degree in employee experience, and she's been working on it. Um, she's been studying even in the prestigious IIT Madras on the PhD. She was the founding people partner at SIUC, if I'm correct, and then led the people success team at Squad Stack. She is passionate about building workplaces that inspire people to put their best foot forward for the business every day. Apart from work, she is a mother of naughty twins, loves dancing, cooking, and reading. And I have to mention here, she's a huge fan of Harry Potter also. Welcome once again, Sasha and Saurabh, to this exciting discussion.
Thank you for having us as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah, go ahead, Saurabh.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Deepthi. I think it was almost like a tongue twister saying a lot of the stuff, so you managed to do it right. Good.
So I should tell you all, guys, when I met Sasha and Saurabh for the mock, it was a great discussion. Um, these two folks are very energetic. So you can ask them n number of questions you want. All right. Um, just a minute, guys.
I have the list of questions with me, Deepthi. If you want me to go ahead, I can read the question out also. It's fine.
No, that's okay. Sasha, just to begin, I think I would probably start with you. What roles does predictive analytics play in anticipating and facilitating HR driven growth strategies?
Okay, so before I go, let me just demystify predictive analytics for everyone, right? The moment we say numbers, I was just talking to Deepthi and Saurabh. I think a lot of HR folks, the moment you say numbers, they'll want to run away outside the door, right? It's not, it need not be that tough, right? It's very simple things like percentages, your pie charts that you learn in school, your bar charts, graph charts, what you would have probably learned in your 10th standard itself. So A, don't get scared the moment you say predictive analytics, right? All it does is use data that you have, that you collect, right, to predict what the performance might look like, how you should go about your talent acquisition strategy, what kind of compensation benefits have been useful, etc., etc. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so let me just demystify you. There's nothing to get scared. This I've seen with a lot of folks. It's not that scary once you jump in, right? It's as simple as going. Everybody knows how to do percentages. Everybody knows how to add numbers. Everybody knows how to compare and see if, say, a particular talent person, right? You have a particular talent executive in your firm. Okay, and you have probably have 3-4 of them. You find one person is able to close 30 positions, somebody else is struggling for maybe similar 15 positions. You don't have to be super number driven to know who is doing it better. That's what predictive analytics does, right? It looks at the past data and it says what will the future outcomes look like. Simple
Sure.
enough, right? Nothing very complicated. We'll cover a few aspects what predictive analytics does specifically within the people function, right? In talent acquisition, it does things like what is the impact of the total number of interviews you have on the cost of hiring, on the likelihood that the person will join, on the time taken for closure, all of these things. Similarly, for onboarding, what is the time it will take for somebody to be productive, right? If it's a junior engineer, how long do they normally take for them to start being productive? If you're hiring somebody at operations level, how long will they require? And what are the additional things that they may require, right? What kind of trainings you need to give them so that they hit the road running faster, which is what all organizations want. At the end, if you want to do strategic HR, that's what all organizations do. Similarly, what are the kind of successful probation completion rates that you have? If you have, say, 50 odd new hires in your org in the last quarter, how many of them have completed their probation successfully? What was the quality of the hire? These are things also that you can determine using talent analytics. Third part in talent management or learning and development is another role that HR analytics plays. What are the training needs of the org today? You want your talent to reach a particular position. Say in the product management org, you find that you have a lot of junior folks. Maybe you need some more mentorship. Is there a specific kind of training that will enhance their product thinking skills? Is there a specific kind of training that will help them to actually develop the right kind of features for your product? All of these are things that analytics can tell you. If you invest, say, 30,000, 40,000, 1 lakh in the training for 10 odd people, what is the likelihood that they'll perform well? Historically, you have seen that, I did a particular product training with a particular person mentor. I found that the performance improved by 30%, right? Or I found that few of the things they were able to develop better features, become more efficient. This is what your talent management analytics does. Another thing is performance management. I think we are going to delve a lot, very deeply into it today. So few things is what are the key traits of high performers? How do you classify high performers, mid performers? What is the risk loss profile of high performers? Because that is something, again, if that is your key talent, you want to retain them in your org, right? What are the pre and post performance review kind of quits that usually happens, right? You've seen all of us see March, October, typically you find that candidates want to, once their reviews are not great, they want to go, right? So what are these kind of very simple analytics that you do around performance management? Employee experience, I think ENPS, everybody in the HR fraternity will know. One simple score, but I will, unpopular opinion, but I will say I'm not a huge fan because unfortunately that's a single score, right? That just gives you one particular data point as to whether this person would recommend your org to somebody else. That need not, it's like as well as saying if I took a healthcare thing, it's like saying if my BMI index is proper, overall the person is very healthy. Not necessarily. The devil is in the details. You need to go in and understand how much do they trust the leadership in your org? How valued do they feel? Are they satisfied with their pay? Are they having proper work-life balance? There are a lot of measures you can do around this to understand how the employee experience is and which of these factors you need to work upon, which are the factors that are already going well, which need to be on maintenance for. And finally, exits. I've just covered the entire life cycle of the employee. Exits give you a lot of data points, right? Usually people, when they've already put down their papers, there's a little less risk. So they tend to tell you information if you maintain that kind of relationship with them. It tells you what is the risk of somebody else also leaving in the team. These are kind of data points that we collect. If you find that generally the risk of loss in a particular team, say your sales team has been very high because of lower pay, then that probably you need to do a compensation benchmarking exercise over there. You need to figure out if pay is the reason. Similarly, if somebody is leaving because their leadership they don't have that much belief in the vision of the leadership, then gives, again, data point. All these are data points that you would collect, and these are not difficult data points to collect also. So this is how predictive analytics will help you in facilitating HR-driven growth strategies and help you come up with clear strategic initiatives that have a measurable impact on the business. Okay.
Awesome, Sasha. So I think my next question probably would be around how can performance analytics help HR professionals align their strategies with overall business growth goals? Saurabh, it'll be nice if you can probably take this.
Sure, and I think I want to kind of take a step back before we kind of talk about performance and growth and expansion and whatever that the organizations will want to achieve eventually, right? We all agree at this point in time that human capital is the biggest investment in any business. Now, if that's the case, the assessment of the talent is supremely important, whether you do top down or whether you do bottom up. The top down approach is typically the OKR, approach as such, wherein, you set the direction, the true north, you cascade it down to your different functional teams and so on and so forth. The bottom up approach is typically where you undergo a performance appraisal cycle at an individual level. So let's first understand that what typically performance is, right? So I don't think so. Performance is it stands in silo. Performance is actually a part of absolute performance and productivity. If I have to further decode this, I would call productivity as a competence and performance as what the outcomes that you drive through these competence as well, right? Now, talent is evaluated at three different levels. First, at an individual level. Second is at a team level. Third is at an org level. Now, if you go back to the thing that I mentioned about top down or bottom up approach, it meets somewhere. And that's what together I would call it as a performance as such. Now, let's infuse what Sasha just mentioned about predictive analytics, or for that matter, even analytics in say, right? You have a current state, which is the top down, bottom up, OKRs, performance appraisals, which tells you where you stand today. And then you have a true north, which is the desired state as to where you aspire to be. And let's assume that this data point, that whatever that we have accumulated gives you indicators or gives you guidance to help you reach that desired state. Now, that's how the performance in total plays a very important role. Now, how does this entire thing play out practically? On OKRs, you have, either weekly, quarterly, monthly check-ins. These help you to understand, in terms of your predictability, how likely are you to achieve your OKRs by the end of the quarter. All right. On talent, let's say that, when you have your regular one-on-ones and the manager is able to review at least once a fortnight, twice a month, what is the likeliness of goal achievement? What are the, gaps in the competencies that are expected by this person, and so on and so forth. And accordingly, you keep course correcting it. So in my opinion, I would say that performance is a continuous thing and is an ongoing, activity. And it plays a very important role in ensuring that organization as well as individuals achieve their professional personal goals together. So that's how I would say that, performance analytics, people analytics plays a very important role, and the tools to achieve that most likely are going to be OKRs and your appraisal systems.
Awesome. So, Saurabh, just to take it to the next level, what are the primary sources of data that HR professionals should consider when collecting performance related information? And how can HR department ensure the accuracy and completeness of the data they collect from the analysis?
Sure. So we'll talk about accuracy slightly later, but let me talk about the sources of the data collection as such. I think part of it Sasha has already covered, so I'll kind of double tap on that. You have your hiring metric, you have your offer to join metric, you probably have your likeliness of probation completion, success of the individual in a particular role, and so on and so forth. So these, from the entire employee life cycle point of view, there are different data points that can be kind of collected, right? Once again, I'll kind of go back, summation of the performance, right? So you have your absolute performance, you have your motivation, you have your, I call it as aspiration also, and then attrition data. All right, let's pick up for the sake of this conversation, at least four things. Performance, one-on-ones, ways in which you can collect it. Motivation is slightly to do with your engagement, so it could be one of the things that Sasha mentioned about, do you trust your leadership? Do you believe that there is transparency and communication in the organization? So all these probably will be your data points. And again, we'll talk about the ways to collect it slightly later, but that's one way to look at how people are motivated in the organization. The aspiration is more about your growth that you provide to the individual in their roles. So this again goes back to your learning and development. This goes back to your investment in the organization and what are the likely results of those investments. Finally, attrition is something that probably all of us talk about. And I think we have a tendency to get fixated on the negative things, but there's also retention along with it, right? And retention of the hypos, let's say that key critical talent as such as well, right? So if you are to look at this from a performance lens point of view, then in that case, let's talk about the tools to collect it or sources to talk about. All right. You have your hiring data, you have your first 90 days data through your 30, 60, 90 people connects and so on. You have your check-ins. You have your one-on-ones, which are either, and not either, I would say, check-ins are more informal, but a formal way to collect it would be one-on-ones. All right. You have your employee surveys, which are your pulse, keeps giving you different results. You have your one-on-one human connects or people connects, which also gives you a little bit of observational data. And finally, you also have an external data sometimes, to benchmark against. So it could be like, in what are the industry standards with regards to compensation, NPS scores, benefits, and so on and so forth. So holistically, if you look at it, there are different sources through which you get this data. The challenge with most of the HR professionals is, how do you make sense of this data? And this is where most of you will play a very important role. That do you want to get fixated with year to date attrition data, or do you want to create your own metric to kind of support your organization, right? Some of the tools to do so, like I said, surveys are there. You also have your, if you lock in your one-on-ones or check-ins through, say, some form of a form, through tools probably which are HRIS tools or maybe plug and play tools, you can always collect this data. But again, it boils down to the same thing. You probably are sitting on a very rich data. How do you make sense of that data? What do you want to build out of that? And that is purely contextual. There is no right or wrong answer. Some organizations who are probably in a 0 to 1 phase or 1 to 10 phase will have a very different approach. In 0 to 1, probably it's all about attrition, retention, getting the right talent and retaining the right talent. Maybe in 1 to 10, the focus could be a lot more on how, is the talent scalable? Are we investing, in terms of learning and development? Is that investment paying results? Are people scaling up to the roles that we want them to play? In 10 to 100, for all the thing could be slightly taking things global, or maybe diversification in terms of products. Now, based on the, I would say, need of the organization or the phase of the organization, generally the metrics and the data, or how do you use the data, will change.
Awesome. All right. So, Sasha, this is, we would like to know your view on this. What role do employee feedback and survey play in data collection of for performance analytics, and how can this data be effectively gathered? How do you adapt data collection strategies to accommodate remote work and hybrid work environment? You're on mute.
I am so sorry. I said definitely employee feedback surveys play a huge role if done right. I was on mute so that I don't start talking when Saurabh talks, but okay. Okay, so huge role if done right. Why I'm saying if done right is, you need to ask the right kind of questions in the surveys. You need to design the surveys themselves correctly. And these are things you get expertise on as you keep working on them, right? So the length of the survey needs to be correct. The quality of the questions need to be good. You have to map them to the right teams. All of these play a very, very important role. And the feedback should be gathered from peers, from managers, from clients, and even from the person concerned. So this will help you get a holistic data view, right? When we say, for example, scores that we get on a 1 to 5, you usually reduce everybody to a rating scale and you try to get data numbers, because that's obviously easier to analyze than how bright somebody's eyes was or how enthusiastic they were, right? You would obviously rate them. But the understanding or expectations that say you have a team size of 5 or 6, and one person is being rated like 4 of them are saying this person is very enthusiastic, they're somewhere on a 4.5 out of 5, then you're assuming there is some source of truth in the data, right? So this is very, very crucial that you ask the right questions. This will help you also understand who are the high performers and what are the factors that contributed to them being high performers, right? It need not be, we assume that it's all only intrinsic. It's not the case. In a lot of cases, it's also extrinsic, right? If you have the passion, if you have the skill set and everything, but you have probably a manager who is not allowing you to realize your full potential, right? And putting their foot down and saying, no, don't try this, who are very risk averse. Say, I'm, for example, a person who likes taking risks, but somebody else is, my manager may be very risk averse and nothing wrong with it, but if that means it's like tying my hands and not allowing me to realize, right? So are these things factors that are affecting my performance? Yes, they will. My relationship with my peers, right, in the team, is that affecting my performance? Yes. This, it's not just my skills, my competencies, my enthusiasm. All of these points also impact. Am I getting enough technological support, right? I'm having the right kind of tools to be able to excel in my role. That is something very important, right? Like, for example, earlier we used to use this GChat, this one. Now teams are slowly shifting to Slack and other tools so that you will be able to communicate better within the teams. All of these are very, very crucial. Also, what performance learning or culture gaps are there that need to be filled in is something that the performance data will tell you, right? There are certain gaps in a team. You find that overall all the team members are saying the team learning is not very, very high, or the lead is not very, very approachable, or they're saying the lead is extremely approachable but team learning is not very high. Then that gives you a data point. Hey, listen, if your leader is very approachable, have you gone and told him or her that the team learning is not enough, maybe we should try this? Or what are the things that are stopping you from going on and learning? These are data points that your performance analytics will give you. And where are the gaps? And this is a huge debated area as well in performance analytics, where we say I evaluate myself to be probably a 4 out of 5. My team might be evaluating me to be only a 3 out of 5. There is a 1 point gap. Then where is that? What is it that I am missing in the larger picture? Or maybe I'm getting it high from some sets and lower from some sets. Then am I doing something wrong with the other set? Or is there overall some kind of misunderstanding that needs to be bridged? These are things that are very essential when you collect data, especially from surveys also. Finally, few things to bear in mind while using surveys is to architect them very, very correctly and ensure that you don't make very lengthy surveys, right? People spend time answering the questions. Some of them may be okay with a pulse survey. Some of them might be, give it at one shot, let me complete it. You'll have to cater to both these kind of individuals. Not all of them enjoy doing like a, 70, 80 odd question survey. Try to keep it maximum 20, 25 questions. Overall, it shouldn't take more than 5 to 7 minutes to answer. That is a sweet spot that if you hit, then you'll be able to get the right kind of data. Because I know this from one of my friends at an organization where she said she developed a really good survey and everything. It was like 70, 80 questions all long. The problem is the response rate was very, very low. While the quality of those who answered was good, the response rate was very, very low. In some other organization, what will happen? Everybody will take either, everything as a 5 or thing, which obviously is not going to be the case, right? So these are mistakes that people make when they develop the surveys. So this is something that I would pay a lot of attention to when I'm collecting data from surveys. In terms of the remote, handling a remote or hybrid team with surveys, I have worked remote pretty much for the last 4 years, 4.5 years. I would say it wasn't that difficult. Your Google Form thing anyway works, right? You can do it async. You just have to give a particular start date, ensure you're driving people to completion, and have a particular end date so that you're having adequate response rate. So I think today we have enough tools and technology. You don't have to do something separate for the hybrid or remote workforce. I think with your regular thing itself, it works. I think gone are the days, even people are working in office, all the teams, I don't think they do paper surveys. They also do online surveys. So it's pretty much okay for you to, just send it and say, do it at a time when you have the right mind and space. And I think one part which a lot of people don't pay too much attention to in surveys is the small description that you give before the survey, right? I have found a huge difference when you've just said, fill this survey for this reason, whereas telling them what is their takeaway from filling the survey. If you pitch it in such that, your take, we are investing in this time and we are going to give you this. We did that at Squad Stack, for example, right? We said we are going to share the survey report with you once we are done with the analyzed survey report, and we did it. We called it Voice of the People report, and that received a lot of appreciation because people are like, okay, I've filled in the survey. It's not like it's just gone into a rabbit hole. They've taken time, they've done something. I think it's very right for the people to know what has happened to the data that I've given, right? And few questions will always come around. Hey, listen, if I answer the survey honestly, will I be jeopardized in any way? It's up to the people person or the HR person in the company to help whoever it is understand that, listen, nobody's individual data is going to go out. We ran a non-anonymized survey. We gave people the option to keep it anonymous or not. 85% of the respondents gave their names. And nobody, like once it was done, we found that rate increased because they found that giving their name is not jeopardizing them in any way. And this was, of course, we kept this only with the people function, right? Even the CEO or nobody else has access to that data. So these are things I would be very careful about.
Awesome.
And just if I could add to what Sasha mentioned, Deepthi, I probably agree with Sasha. Today, it doesn't really matter whether you're working remotely or hybrid. I think so long, the only benefit of probably having people in office is the rate of completion is going to be higher. But apart from that, a lot of people still would want to kind of, give their complete mind space while they're taking those surveys and all. So I think we'll move past that hybrid versus remote kind of a thing while we are talking about predictive analysis, because I am seeing that it really doesn't matter today whether the person is working from office or this, apart from the driver. What drives them to work, to be more passionate, or the intensity will change, but more or less everything remains the same when it comes to collecting the data as such.
Sure. So probably, Saurabh, this is for you. What tools or software are recommended for HR data analytics analysis? Sorry, and what are the key features?
I'll talk about from my experience, but I'm sure there are plenty of tools out there. And I would also love to hear, Sasha, from you that if there's any other tool that has worked for you as well. So there's a very foundational Google Sheets, approach, and a lot of companies still find it very effectively as a way to get the data or collect the data and maintain the data as well. So there's that one foundational approach, I would say, which is to use Google Forms, Google Sheets, a lot of I would say data driven approach. The other part of it is you using, I would say, classy tools. We personally use Peoplebox, which is right from OKR to one-on-ones to check-ins and also for performance appraisals. This integrates for us over Slack, and we are slightly not an email first organization. We are a Slack first organization. So embedding it is as a part of your day-to-day work, messaging, and so on and so forth works wonders for us when it comes to Peoplebox. Is it the perfect tool out there? Probably not from an, I would say, predictive analysis, but it does serve to a larger percent, I would say 80-90%. With this, I've also come to a conclusion that there is no perfect tool out there. All right. You probably need a multiple tools put together to get the outcome that you want. Right. So you could be probably plugging in using, say, Amber, which is of Infido, to collect, say, the employee surveys. That's another tool. You could be using Clar, all right, which is also upcoming right now, and they also integrate with Slack and Teams and so on and so forth. So that could be another way. Again, is it good to have too many tools? Probably not. But is it good to have tools which are already built for a specific purpose? The answer is yes. Again, I would go back to the fact that you still would collect plenty of data, and I'm guilty of it myself. What do we do of that data? How do we make sense of that data? So again, I'm going to tie it back to what Sasha said. If your questions don't collect the right input, no amount of tool is going to help you out there. But
Sure.
anything more, Sasha, from your experience, you could add. Of course, sorry, there's one more thing. We all know about mesh and lattice, but the context is different. It's a slightly more Western tool. If you're looking for a very Indian context kind of thing, it does help to a very large extent. But also understand that if you want to work with smaller players who can customize it for you quickly and have a lesser turnaround time, or you want to work with already established ones like Darwinbox, Mesh, Lattice, and so on and so forth. So try probably, based on your context of your organization, try variations as such. Sasha, sorry, over to you.
No problem. So I think tools wise, there is whatever Saurabh covered. I would take the approach of dividing into two kind of tools, right? One is your data analysis tool, right? And I found your Excel to be decent enough for the regular basic analysis, right? Your Excel or Google Sheets is fair enough, unless you want to do very advanced analysis, right? But the other part is the visualization, right? You can either use your Tableau, Power BI, Google Data Studio. I've used pretty much all of these, and I find it's the same thing, right? Your bar graphs are just visually presented in a much easier way for consuming, right? Rather than presenting it in long sheets. I've created some of these really good dashboards on Data Studio, which are able to clearly tell the viewer, and they're very interactive dashboards also. So if I want to know, for example, if I increase my spend on a particular learning and development, what is the likelihood of this score going up? It will give you all the data. And you can integrate this with data from a lot of other sources as well. So that way, I think Data Studio or any of these, right, Power BI, Tableau work very, very well. So both these components are important, especially when you're going to present to the leadership team. I think the visualization part is very, very important, which I think as HR professionals, we should learn data visualization. It's not, again, not rocket science, right? All of us I myself was, honestly, I'm saying, very scared when I first went on a Data Studio, despite having a proper data background. I was like, my main pain point was with software, right? Generally, I said, I'm not a coding person and I'm not very software, but I would say it was not that difficult, very honestly. And I'm saying this, I can do it. I'm sure anybody else can do it. So I wouldn't say I'm the most brilliant mind out there, but I think making that and really, it made a huge difference to the level of visibility the people function got at the leadership level. And that is super crucial. Similarly, for you to convince, say, your own team lead or or the CEO that, I want to invest in this because, I mean, you look at this. If I invest here, clearly this is going to go up by this much, right? That is what my predictive analytics tells me. That it becomes very, very crucial. So these tools, I think it's very, very important. That's why I said, am I being enabled with the right tools and technology, with the right knowledge to be able to perform at my best, is something that becomes very, very crucial.
Awesome. So probably I would like to add in a few more points here. When we choose the tool, we'll also have to look at, like what Saurabh was saying about the context, like what kind of a company, what is the stage where we are in, and considering all the sensitive aspects like budget, and are you extremely technology, or just where we just want the information data, the basic one, like if it is a 0 to 1 or 1 to 10, how. So based on all these things, we can definitely choose the right tool.
Yeah, but for example, Data Studio is free. You're not going to, anyway, you'll be paying for your Gmail. You won't be paying anything extra for it.
Initially,
So,
Data Studio
and
will be.
even I'm saying, forget any of these. Even if you're using either Excel or your Google Sheets, there are visualization even on that available. Even if you use that much basic, it's enough, right? How many of us know how to make a bar chart, a pie chart, a time chart on it? It's not rocket science to learn. All it needs is the intent to want to learn the right tool, to want to present. And again, like I always told this to my team when I work with them, right? I don't want to be begging for a seat at the table. I want the leadership team to come and tell us that, hey, listen, what is it? Them to be excited because of the kind of work that we're doing. And I think visualization is a great way. I think at sales teams, I would say there's a lot to learn from them. The way they present to the client, right? It makes the client want to make that purchase. That is exactly, I think, what the HR as a function should do to ensure that we get that seat on the leadership table. Like you, like, right, Royally walk in with a red carpet, right? What's better than that?
Absolutely. So probably the next question to that is, how do you determine which performance metrics are more relevant to your organizational goals during the data analysis phase? Probably Sasha can take this.
Yeah, so these metrics are usually defined before you get into your data analysis phase, right? These are determined when you go into your performance cycles itself, ideally. And even when, I would say, there's an ongoing basis, right? You have set certain goals already. I'm sure this is being done at the start of the quarter or start of the mid-year, whenever, however the organization do it. You set your goals at the beginning. You don't wait for the quarter to end and then go back and say, have I? So you need to have a clear goal in place. Similarly, the metrics also should be set in place beforehand. And I think it's very essential for all orgs to have a clear competency framework in place, even if it's a very basic one. Need not be something as complicated as Gojek's framework or anything else, right? You don't have to take in 16, 15, 18 different factors over there. Think of 4 or 5 things that you absolutely need to achieve over the quarter. I'm not a huge fan of the KPIs method for the simple reason that I think it gives you too much to focus on. I like going in with like 3 to 4 things that I absolutely need to do that quarter so that my focus is very clear. Right? Other things you will have miscellaneous things that come in place, but every small, thing that you do need not be included over there. The goals that I absolutely need to achieve, that I want my team to achieve, should be set in the beginning. And by and large, I think these metrics will fall into 3 buckets, right? One is when I think of a competency framework, my technical competencies, which is my breadth of knowledge in related functions, depth of knowledge in my particular domain, and may probably knowledge of tools and technologies in this domain. So these are 3 things that will cover everything under my technical expertise. The other 2 parts will be your leadership skills and your business acumen skills. This should be common across the org for a particular function, right? And if you see across the org, if I see whether it's a sales or whether it's an engineering or thing, my leadership at, say, a team lead level, I would want them to have these leadership skills, irrespective of whether they are part of an engineering function or a product function or a design function. I would want them to have a good understanding of the business. I would want them to be able to grow the business and have that business foresight. I would want them to have good product thinking skills. A lot of people think that product thinking is only for product ops. Not at all. In fact, I think in my introduction also I've mentioned I'm a huge fan of the product thinking approach, because overall, if you see, it's a lot of system thinking that you use over there You try to understand how am I impacting the system overall. When I think of your product, think of us, right, as HRs, what is the product that we offer? The service itself is the product, right? For a lot of hotels also, it's the same way. The service they give, right? The room you go to is the product they are offering at the end of the day. And not just that, their smile is a product. Think of an airline that you go to, right? That smile is the product, the food is a product, your experience of flying is a product. All of these are products. Bring that approach to even the people field. Understand what is it that you're offering, what is the business impact it is creating. Don't think of it as, okay, I am doing this within the HR function. No, you have an impact on the finance of the company. You have an impact on the way the product team works in your company. You have an impact on the way your engineering org works. All of these, we should be able to bring that approach. That becomes extremely critical. So I think all of these should be integrated in your performance management framework itself and data collected on that basis. Where am I right now? Where do I need to get by the end of the quarter? And that conversation in the one-on-one should happen, or even at a team level, as to what is it that I need to be able to achieve my goals. Right? It shouldn't be looking back after the quarter saying, oh, I did, and then saying, oh, had I had this, then I would have achieved. I mean, why the hell don't you just think of it in the beginning itself, right? Give me this in the beginning, I will achieve it and show you should be the way we are able to empower our people. I think that is, again, there will be constraints. I agree with you, Deepthi, when you said there are budget constraints, there are time constraints, yes. But then that all should also be factored in when you're setting goals. Don't set impossible goals and then you will feel disappointed later if you set impossible. There should be push goals, and I would say, I mean, there is this, I'm forgetting this graph here. I think it's skills versus challenge. So the flow state is right in the middle, right? Where your challenge is just slightly above your skill, where it's reachable, but you need to push yourself. And when you keep pushing, it's like that incrementally you keep getting better. And nobody becomes a superstar in one day, right? You do few things, you keep pushing yourself, you become better. I think that is the way performance analytics should work. And that's the way data should also work.
Awesome. How can HR professional effectively incorporate quantitative data into their feedback process without losing the qualitative aspect? Saurabh, if you can probably take this up.
Sure. I think I'm once again going to double tap on what Sasha said. I mean, you architect well in advance of what you want to kind of, achieve, right? The rest of the things, you design your forms, you design your inputs accordingly. So if you want to understand the quantitative part, qualitative part is equally important. Now, probably traditionally, I would say a lot of focus in performance has only been given to qualitative part of it. All right. Questions like what are the strengths of the individual and what are the areas of opportunity or development, right? Now imagine you add one more layer to it. So how about combining both these things together, wherein you are asking something like overall rating, what could this person would have done differently, and what are the areas of opportunity, also have a competence score say associated with it, and together then at the end you have a performance score and a competence score. Now imagine these two scores, you're able to plot it on an X and Y axis and probably understand your, high potentials and probably the laggards and so on and so forth, right? For the laggards, if your philosophy is to kind of continue investing in them and so on and so forth, that lot is likely to go into the talent development, right? The high potentials, probably the flow state that Sasha mentioned, you need to give them stretch assignments and, keep them motivated and so on and so forth, or even carve out a different career trajectory for them, because eventually you're likely to lose them from an 80-20 Pareto principle. 20% of the people will be driving the 80% of the organization. So I would say that, one is the quantitative part of it, which probably is good description. It gives you more clarity why a particular score and so on and so forth. But the numerical value is also going to play a very important role. And the inputs from qualitative comments are likely to be enhancing your quantitative score. So that's how I would put it. So uh, finally, if I have to put it in an X and Y axis, I have somebody in between, nor are they hypo and nor are they, laggards. So in that case, I might want to kind of use a particular input for putting them through, say, learning and development. Now, my question is, what should they be learning? And those inputs primarily will come from your qualitative analysis, right? Something which I've seen all of us tend to use it, but somehow probably with all the coolness and the newness of all the generative AI tools out there, I'm sure each one of us have seen the cloud thoughts. You pump in as many words as possible, and then it throws what is the trend. We've tried doing that, specifically to understand the learning needs in an organization. it wasn't the best use, but just wanted to tell you to you that even such like things, that you take all the comments of all the managers, or from a particular function, you put them into a cloud thought, or a cloud form, and you get at least that, hey, this is what most of the people are asking. So at least your top three skills that you need to invest on is visibly out there, without using any cool tools or predictive analysis as well, right? So these are simple things, I would say, that you can combine a quantitative, qualitative, and some tools to give you top three things that you want to focus on at least.
Sure. So, probably Sasha, if you can throw some light on what steps can HR take to ensure that data-driven feedback is constructive and it fosters a positive and growth-oriented culture.
Sure. So I think first of all, when we look at data-driven feedback, doubling up on what Saurabh said, it's essential to combine both the quantitative and qualitative aspects, right? More often than not, your qualitative aspects will have to support the quantitative aspect, right? If I am being rated 3 on a particular out of 5 on a particular dimension, say my depth of expertise, I need to also be told what can I do to get it to 4. It's not enough. And why is it at 3 right now? Why am I being rated 3? And these the conversations should happen during the one-on-ones, I would say. And ideally, in fact, I'm a huge fan of the No Rules Rules book by Reed Hastings and the Netflix culture. I would say a lot of their things, why they've got it right, and thrown it out in the open, right? They have done it such that, borrowing from the book, I say they have team level meetings at the end of the quarter and they invest, right? They have it over a lunch. They have spent almost 2 to 3 hours just reflecting and saying, okay, what is the score I have got? And what are the things, top 3 things I should be focusing on over the next quarter? What are the top 3 things that are going well? Both these are, put into that meeting. So if there's a team of, say, 8 odd folks, 8 of them will spend 2, 3 hours where you're spending at least about 20 minutes per person, right? And this is one aspect where I think there's a lot of scope for gamification in the performance management itself. For example, I think there was this somewhere I read, I don't remember where they did it in the red jar, green jar method, right? So everybody else in the team would write, in the green jar, put things that they really like about the way this person has been performing. And the red jar would be things that they feel they should improve. So the person would take it, they would take it, and that way it's kind of anonymous, but everybody it's out there in the open, right? Everybody knows what needs to be improved. And if people have questions around they discuss it then and there with everyone. So and everybody goes through this. All the 8 members in the team, including the lead, would go through this. So it puts things out, and there's a certain maturity level that develops, and that it becomes as a process itself. It's a lot more constructive, right? Rather than waiting for your survey result, looking at it alone, and feeling like oh my God, this didn't go well. And I think human nature, very few of us are optimistic. We tend to focus on the things that didn't go well, right? What didn't go well? Okay, didn't go well. Instead of looking at, okay, fine, didn't go well, how do I make it superstar quality? How do I make it rockstar stuff? That is something I would want people to focus on. So having this discussion helps you also understand that, say, something that was red in my jar was actually probably a green in somebody else's jar. I would want to reach out to that person and say, hey, this happens to be a strength and something I'm not great at. How are you managing to achieve this? It promotes those kind of conversations. So I really believe gamification is absolutely important here. Secondly, I think even if you want to foster that positive and growth oriented culture, there is one huge aspect that people discount, which is the psychological safety in the team, right? When even the best performers, you give them an environment where they don't feel safe to take risks, they will start doing badly, irrespective of whatever the field, right? Let it be a cook, let it be a musician, let it be a sports person, whoever it is. If you don't have that feel, and this is something I think I read in one of the interviews by Neeraj Chopra. He said that his coach always told him that, listen, just do your best. Don't worry. As to when it comes, doesn't come, is not under your control, right? And not everything is controllable. Everybody who goes going for the Olympics is a superstar, right? Everybody can't win the gold medal and come back. It's essential that there are controllables. Let me work on what I can. If there are weaknesses, put them out. Hey, listen, I have this weakness. Example, I tend to talk very fast, right? And I tend to get very immersed in a topic. I tell folks, if I'm going too deeply, please tell me. Sometimes out of passion, I will tend to talk on and on. Let me know. You let me know when to stop, I'll stop, right? These are weaknesses I recognize I cannot control all the time. While I try to be conscious, I tell folks, right? These are things which you would want. Similarly, everybody else, when everybody starts opening up, it creates that culture, growth oriented culture, where people start building on each other rather than breaking each other down. And the red jar is not looked at as just as a red jar, but a scope for you to actually build and become a better version of yourself. I think that is where people need to
Move to a green jar.
absolutely scope
Your
for moving that to the green jar, right? So
absolutely.
I have seen a lot of folks, not just in the people team, but even outside, who are like, these are things that didn't go well, right? We didn't have a red jar, green jar. These are my weakness. But they took that as a feedback and say, later, this should be my point for my gratitude, right? I want my lead to come and tell me that you really worked on it. I'm grateful. And I want to be in a space where I'm helping somebody else come out of it. It's very similar to, if I took it as a pure psychology thing, I've gone through very severe depression. I came out of it. Today I'm helping out people, and like when I do my counseling sessions with folks, I tell them, like, listen, if I have come out of it, it's not impossible. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So it's not, so somebody help me then, and it's like a paid forward kind of mechanism, right? You move on, you ensure that you go through the thing. It's okay, fine, you're going through a tough phase, help us, take help from your team. It's not, I mean, all of us think giving is very important. Equally important, I would say, is trying to get back from the community also, right? So that you start giving, because only when you get something, you'll also be able to give. So I think it should go on as a cycle.
And how, yeah, please go ahead.
No. That, and I was just going to say, I don't think it should just stop with collecting this data. It should also be reported very clearly to the leadership team. That is absolutely crucial, not just to the leadership team, but also a team as a whole. You should understand, as a team, where were you last quarter? What is it that as a team you have improved on this quarter? And that means effort from every single person. Just like your cricket score, I mean, you get a score of 300 on the board. It's not that one person came and made 300 over there, right? Everybody has contributed, and that's the way teams should also work. That is what fosters a growth-oriented culture. So understand your performance potential analysis, like what Saurabh said. Who are the high performers, high potential folks? And you need not have high performance top star, rock star people everywhere, right? There are some roles where you might need just medium potential, medium performance folks. You need only that much because the scope of role is only that much. Get only those folks. Because the moment you get high potential, high performance, and you're not giving them adequate challenges, they will get out, right? People don't want, nobody wants to be stuck in the same. So that will happen. Second, look at skill and challenge match, right? This is the skill of the person. Are you feeling challenged enough? Should be a conversation that the lead and the mentee should have, right? Overall, as a team, you should have that conversation. Is the team feeling challenged enough, right? It may happen that individually people are feeling challenged, but as a team, they're not getting that option to actually go there and excel. Okay, then what is it that is stopping? What are the blockers? And high performance areas should be identified team-wise, org-wise, individual-wise, presented and said, these are the things, this should feed into your learning and development, into your individual development plans, into your talent management plans, and say, listen, if I need to be future ready, I need to ensure my talent has those skills today. Then how do I mean, those skills today, they won't have it now, but I'll spend the next 3 months developing it and ensure by the 3 months we are ready with that skill set, right? Future-proof yourself as an org. And finally, recommendations with numbers should be very, very clear, right? When you present to the leadership team or even to your team, right? I'm recommending that as a team, we go ahead with this. We are right now at 3.5. We need to get to at least 4.5 over the next quarter. Let's aim for 4.5. It's fine if we don't get there, right? But let's aim for 4.5. Let's not aim for 4. Let's aim for 4.5. Let's see and let us put in our best effort. Small pieces of, again, we think data is just numbers. A small pat on the back, a small motivation from your leader, a small piece of advice from your team could actually boost you a long way. These are all things that we ignore, and very crucial aspects of team culture and fostering that high growth, high performance teams.
Awesome. So probably I'll move on to the next question. What are the key challenges organizations might face when transitioning to data-driven HR growth strategies, and how can they be mitigated? Saurabh, what do you think
Okay,
about?
so I'll kind of take a step back and give you an engineering example, and then move into the change that probably HR professionals need to make. So in engineering, there are two types of culture. One is called as the typical stress on documentation culture, which means that you do your regular engineering stuff, and as say a problem happens, you solve for that problem, and then there's a documentation on Confluence and Jira on the problem solution approach. Now, this approach is pretty solid when the culture of engineering is pretty stable, right? And it leads to something called as a factory code, which basically means that tomorrow something similar comes up or happens, you can actually refer to it. The second part of engineering culture is I call it as extreme engineering, but I think that's also a very popular term that is used in engineering, which is about here and now. All right, you will find most of the fast-moving consumer, tech typically using it. Logistics and team companies probably like Porter and Dunzos would be using it. Which the problem happens right now, and from an engineering point of view, you have to fix it here and now itself. Now, if you ask me, there are merits on both the sides. All right. But the here and now is more contextual. It happened probably one time, may not happen. It got fixed and you move on. Right. Now, let's move to performance management or performance analysis. It's very similar. If you look at the way we probably need to document it and so on and so forth, so that tomorrow probably that becomes your baseline. So the way I see it is that that's your baseline. You keep kind of incrementally moving forward and so on, right? On the other side, there is here and now. Year 2021, when probably every talent had at least two or three offers in the hand, all right, you probably could not stick to the old performance management styles, right? You needed a radical different approach. You probably need to kind of pump in a little more increments and so on, or probably even come up with a different retention strategy. So I believe that HR professionals or any people team functions, will need to operate in the same way, that either it is extreme engineering or it is systemic documentation. But given the fact, all right, change management, if you're made up your mind that you want to move from a systemic HR, which is a traditional HR approach, into the modern HR kind of approach, then I typically see an age-old framework which holds good for most of the time. It's people. I call it as PPT. So people, processes, and tools, right? You need to change the attitude of the people towards documenting it, recording it, having regular one-on-ones, all right, not being required to chase from the people team to complete the appraisals on time, and so on and so forth. All right, you need to have good processes, or I would say easy to use processes. And here I have a very four principle approach, to ensure that whatever that we do kind of has a approach to scale. It needs to be simple from a process point of view. It needs to be implementable. It needs to be scalable, and it needs to be repeatable. All right. Whether you're doing something today specific to a region, country, tomorrow global, all of these four principles need to stay good. So if your processes are not simple, people are most likely not to kind of do the documentation that is required from data point of view, right? So we'll probably lose this transition somewhere in the process itself. And the last part is tools. I mean, you want to kind of probably go beyond visualization, and you're still using, say, Google Sheets. At a point in time, it will break even. All right. It probably will not kind of stretch beyond that. You maybe need to invest in advanced tools at a point in time. So again, that brings us back to what are your aspirations and where you are, and how do you bridge that gap. So in my experience, I've only seen that if you take care of people, processes, and tools, there probably is going to be no resistance. People, and you do a good change management to move people from one to another, should be able to kind of solve for this problem.
Awesome. Um, so, Sasha, how frequently should HR departments revisit and adjust data driven goals to ensure they remain relevant and effective?
Okay, I will keep this very short because I think we're also running short on time. We're almost at 5, and I wanted to discuss the last question that we had. So, it depends on the organizational maturity itself, right? Like Saurabh said, is it a 0 to 1, 1 to 10? What kind of org is it? But irrespective, I would say bare minimum is every quarter you'll have to revisit, especially given the flux in startups. So it's important that you move ahead looking at, I need to move at this pace, I need to achieve this. But mid-quarter, maybe just have a quick review of, are we on track? Is there something else we need to probably address? Have any of the goals themselves changed? Has the organization strategy changed? And probably kind of revisit on that one. Secondly, constantly revisit progress even during your one-on-ones, right? Or during team meetings to understand weekly where have we moved? This is what we should do. Break down your overall large goals for your team to smaller steps and weekly goals so that you understand what is it you need to be achieving week on week, and so that you're able to also move in that direction, right? And when you're lagging. It's not, there's no point waking up at the end of the quarter and saying, oh my God, we didn't achieve this, right? You should have been tracking it all along. So data is key over there. Adopt a fail fast method. In case something is not working, it's fine. You tried, you experimented, it failed, go ahead, right? Say this failed, let everybody else know it's failed so that nobody else is trying the same thing. And then go ahead and say, okay, let's try what is it that we can do so that we try something that doesn't fail. Experimentation is very, very key for high performance cultures. And not everything that you try will win. There is something all leads, all team members should know. That, I'm trying out, 3, 4 different things. Maybe only one hits the bullseye, the other 3 go waste. I think a lot of great people and everybody who invented did great inventions would say this, right? They didn't get it right the first time. They probably tried hundreds of times to get things right. That is because they had that perseverance to keep trying until they got it right. I think that is super crucial, right? Don't be foolish and make the same mistakes. Hire smart people, give them the freedom to, make their experiments and achieve their goals. I think your thing is set. Review it every quarter for sure at bare minimum, but I would say please include your small weekly, fortnightly nudges so that you understand, are you going on track? Is there something that's lagging behind? Has something changed? I think as a learning experience, this should be something that everybody should go forward with.
Yeah, yeah. For example, I mean, Thomas Edison tried, I think, 14 months for the light bulb. So I'm sure we all can.
Today we all just put one switch and that's the problem with today's culture, right? Everything is so fast. We don't have the patience for experimentation. That is something I've seen missing with I don't know how many Gen Z's and millennials are there. Please don't kick me for it, but I have seen that. I mean, I'm seeing it with my own kids, right? The patience to it's like the key, you have the fingerprint system now, so they're like, why is it? I'm like, have some patience. It's also a system, it will take its time. That is not there. Payments are everything is all digital.
So it is like it's not instant now.
I mean, imagine our generation, we probably went to the bank, filled a form, and we've seen that, right? For us, this is like much. For them, they've never even seen that. I mean, forget things. Switching on a cassette, taking out a cassette, putting a tape, and then switching on we have this problem. Now it's like, go things, select the music. That's it. It's so ingrained in this generation, right? But I think that's
Instant
what also
Zamana
drives
generation.
things forward. That impatience, like, listen, I need to get this done. They try hook or crook, and that's something I've really admired. I mean, they don't give up that easily, generally, so which is a great thing as well.
So, what is the future of performance management? Sorry.
My favorite question. Yes, Saurabh, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this is something I've been waiting for someone to ask me at some point in time, all right? Because there is, again, no fixed answer for it. Some of us probably, started back in the days where it was all about, MBO, which is management by objectives, all right? And, somebody would decide these are the objectives, these are the KRAs, these are the KPIs. So I think we have all seen the evolution at this point in time. I personally think this is a good time to actually be driving performance managements in the organizations as such, and for the next 2 years before it gets disrupted. Once again, I'm going to tap on to what Sasha said: experiment as much as possible, because we don't know what it lies. I want to throw in some buzzwords which people keep talking, and probably some of the experiments that we have done. One thing I think that is going to disrupt this entire performance management is the generative AI part, right? And please don't kind of think at this point in time that it will do everything from start to end. What I mean is, it will kind of take away a certain bit of mundane tasks out of you. For example, recalibration data, all right? Probably it will do it for you up to 80% and come back to you to do the 20%, wherein the context is known to you. Probably there's a history to that employee. Probably there are certain, let's say, managerial conversations. And that is where HRs will now play a very strategic role. But imagine that entire recalibration has already been done and given to you. Second could be compensation benchmarks, all right, using generative AI. Imagine if you have a software engineer who's paid, say, 20 lakhs per annum. And it tells you that based on the headcount, based on the location, based on the country, here's what others are paying. All right. And it could be either a deficit or it could be even a surplus. And it helps you to take the right call accordingly, right? As opposed to probably going back and forth as such. So I'm a huge fan of generative AI. I'm not sure of how it's going to play an important role in performance management, but I think definitely at the start point of it, it will nudge the managers to probably say that, hey, it's time to have a feedback conversation. It will nudge the employee to a certain extent to say, hey, it's been 15 days and you haven't met your manager. It probably will kind of tell the managers that so and so person is ready for the promotion based on the competencies and the previous one-on-ones. And even these are great nudges. So at the start, I think, in my introduction, it said experiments with behavioral economics. I'm a big fan of nudges. I personally feel that that's the future. And, I think Sasha and me were talking about it. My personal favorite example also happens to be that of a big basket, wherein if I forget to buy something per week, it tells me that, hey, you missed the bananas or the oranges that you were supposed to buy. All right. Or from your previous thing. And that is also a way the nudge works. It makes you buy things, it makes you do things, right? But that's probably what I think is the future. A radical idea that probably few years back I was trying to experiment if this comes. It's about Google Glass. You probably, there was a potential use case that the managers wear it, and like, if you're getting into a feedback conversation, the glass will read the body language, the tone, the assess the language, and inside the glass of the manager, it kind of nudges, empathize, or speak this. I would say that if that product ever comes, I would be the first one to buy it, because that's like real time, feedback to me, to engage with the person. And that's what is the potential of, feedback, performance management, and so on and so forth. So that's my vision for how it should be in the future. But I would love to know other people's thought as well.
I agree a lot with Saurabh, and I think a lot of stuff. I mean, when I think of even the big basket example that he said, for me, it's like I think there should be the future where the performance management systems or whatever tools you use tell us that, listen, hey, if you get the skill set, you can probably take this track in your career. And right, if you want to take this track, and it's like so interactive that it tells me, right now you're at you want to take an assessment, figure out where you are, we'll recommend courses or things, the skills that you should develop, and it's proactive, right? Or even better is like when I say future proofing, I am thinking of software tools where my goal is to probably reach, and it's all very gamified, right? My goal is to probably be a team lead by the end in the next 3-4 years, right? And I say, okay, fine. If I want to be 3-4 years, then these are the shorter goals that it breaks down all that for you and tells you clearly that this is where, by year this, if you've achieved this, then you would get all this. But let me also tell again, for the people, the downside of it is not all of it is controllable again, right? There are your family circumstances. The luck is a huge factor which all of us ignore. Luck it is, right? Somebody has a job today, they don't have a job tomorrow. It's not in their hand. Layoffs are happening left, right, and center. But the fact that I need to do all this gives you clear goals. And it gives you with that vision that if I do this, I will get that in return. I think that is a huge push factor, nudge factor for all of us, right? I mean, just keeping that dream in mind, right? Like for Edison, getting that bulb was the dream, right? And he tried again and again and again. It'll give you the motivation. Sorry?
It's 14 months he's tried.
No, 14 months. And some of these goals I'm saying could be like, I have seen people, right? Some of the interviews, my question is, what vision do you have for yourself, right? I'm not saying it could be, I don't even tell them the time frame. It's not like, what do you want to be in the next 5 years? No, I tell them, what is your vision for yourself? I usually stop it and leave it intentionally open-ended. Some of them who are entering tell, I want to be the chief marketing officer. I really see myself doing that. And you can literally see their eyes all glow up and stuff. And then they're like, I just want to get good momentum. And they've also planned. They've taken that additional step to say, I've gone and reviewed other chief marketing officers. I've seen their career paths. I've decided so much. I'm like, wow, yeah, that is Gen Z. That I really love about them, right? They're very clear. I want to do this. I'm going to work backwards. I want to achieve this. So that is where I see the future of performance being, where we've set goals, we've worked towards it, but we are also setting goals not just for the quarter, but we are keeping short-term, long-term, mid-term, everything, and tying in all the data points together so that we are able to achieve, and keeping abreast of what is happening. That is something, continuous learning, that is super crucial, non-debatable. If you're not continuously learning, you're not going to grow. Whichever
Sasha, what I liked about is having the nudge saying that, hey, you know what? To reach that, you need to do A, B, C, D things.
Yes, that gives them a realistic picture. Yeah. Because everybody needs to know, you don't jump to become a chief marketing officer. You don't jump into a people and culture head, right? You move in baby steps like you did your first standard, second standard, third standard. People, especially when they look, they're like, I've seen this. I'm like, yeah, to ask this person what all tough things they also had to do or go through before they reach that level. So it all looks hunky-dory from where you are. It's not.
But the grind is different, the grind itself is a different story.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's where the future of performance management is, where you're clearly saying, similarly at organization level, we need to get there as an organization. What do we start doing from today? Work towards it. Give everybody their dream. Feed that dream into everybody's head. That is the future of performance management.
Awesome, awesome. So let's move on to the questions. I think somebody wants the entire record of this meeting. I will definitely talk to Sayali and just check if we can share it. The next question is, how can we align
Deepthi, one
all?
second. I'll just quickly interrupt and answer that. All the recordings are available after 15-20 days on our website for people to watch.
Awesome.
So that should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so Pooja is asking all subjective KRAs, weightage, and percentage of achievement. How do we align all this?
I don't think the question is clear to me. Saurabh, did you understand the question? I
Not
think
really, but I'm guessing that it means that, how do we align subjective KRAs and assign percentages to it in terms of achievement? So, I'll take a dig at it. I'm not sure if that would answer and align to what Pooja is actually asking. But Pooja, whenever you have a subjective KRAs, all right, something like which is probably not tangible enough, to be converted into a metric, I believe you should definitely have a lower percentage associated with it. See with all this data collection, can you make some sense out of it eventually? But starting out with a very subjective KRA, a subjective KRA could be launch in Philippines. All right. Now, what is launching in Philippines? Is it having a logo in Philippines? Is it a billboard in Philippines? Is it a shop in Philippines? Is it probably, the first 1 million revenue coming from Philippines? We don't know. So launch in Philippines probably is a very subjective KRA, right? But let's say eventually as one quarter progresses and you get more clarity, what does this launch mean? Then probably you can bring in more, I would say KRAs and percentages and so on and so forth. But I'm not sure if that's what you wanted to know, but hopefully this helps you.
All right, we have one more question. What performance evaluation metrics is being followed by most of 0 to 1 organization?
that I can answer because I was part of the 0 to 1 organization. So we followed the check-ins method. Initially started off with OKRs, but again, I think OKRs is again not unpopular opinion, but I do feel OKRs was meant as an alignment tool rather than a performance management tool. A lot of people misuse the OKRs for performance management, which was never the case. It was not even invented for that reason, right? So alignment is essential, and I think that should feed in probably to your check-ins, right? That should be as a basis for your check-in, but that cannot be a tool by itself. So what we did is understood where we want to go as a company, and then we said, okay, fine, we have to all contribute this, and then we delve deep and say what is each of our roles in this. Wrote down, like I said, 3 to 5 absolute goals, reasonably big goals, right, that we should achieve over the quarter, and then broke that down and said, okay, fine, this is what we will do. What do we need for that? And how are we going to achieve it? That is how we did the 0 to 1 journey. Very specific, just 3 to 5. I clearly said, do not have it more than 5 goals and don't distract the person. If you give them 15 things to do, they will fail and then they'll feel worse. As a team, what are 3 to 5 overall goals? Break that down. What is it that each person needs to do? And then go ahead with that.
I'll just take 30
Then
seconds to add a little more to this. Maybe what, and presumably exactly you are a 0 to 1, which means you're in the first year of your operations. I think hiring should definitely be one of the metric. I mean, like, the cost to hire, probably the quality of hire and so on and so forth. Another thing could be, because you're bringing in right talent, I also feel that retention/attrition could be one of the metric as well. And again, because it is all about bringing people together, team management, all right, and under team management it could be how regularly are your one-on-ones, check-ins, performance management, all of that happening together. So if you're looking for specific things, Daphne, these are the 3 things that I would say that probably could be what Sasha said. Don't go beyond 3 or 5. I think it's insane, but just stick to these 3 should be helpful.
Very basic.
Very basic, yeah.
All right, I think this was a powerful session. I really love talking to both of you.
I
Here,
think there's one more question by who in the organization has to approve the goals. HR team leaders or founders. I think in a very, if you hire the right talent, I say that person needs to approve the goals. That's it. With my goals, I need to approve so that I work towards it. I would keep it simple, just share it with my, I think I'll probably discuss it with my lead, but I think that's exactly where I would stop, right? Self-ownership for the goals is I think that's the biggest driver. I think for Edison, he approved that he wanted to invent the bulb and he went ahead and did it. Nobody else, had to tell him, nobody else had to, the drive is very intrinsic then, right?
Yes.
How can we do quick surveys to analyze skill gaps in startup company? I think I would like to take this offline. Snehal, you can directly get in touch with me. This is a slightly longish topic. I think it will be a little difficult, and we're already kind of 15 minutes post time. But definitely happy to chat on this and help out over here.
Yeah, I just want to kind of correct it. There is no quick way out there.
That's why I said longest topic. quick. I mean, I know lot of your CEOs, CTOs, they I hired you today. Tomorrow, I want the talent to have, absolutely.
It doesn't happen like that.
Doesn't happen like that. They want to sow the seed today and get the fruit tomorrow. It should already be in their mouth tomorrow. Doesn't happen.
It's a gradual process. I mean, it's a beautiful gradual process where you grow.
You keep evolving. Yeah, you grow. That's why it's called growth, right? It's not instant. That's why I said this generation is like that. No, instant everything, right?
Instant coffee, instant noodles, instant movies.
That was also there during our time. Now it's instant payment, so it's the instant bank transfer. Everything is instant. So it's like.
So I will probably just quickly add to what Snehal is saying. I don't know, Snehal, is this your ask or is this somebody else's ask from the organization? If somebody else is asking you, can you do a quick survey to identify the skill gaps? I would also kind of, put in an offer, reach out to me personally. I have 5 difficult questions that I had created to push back. Some of my requesters never came back after that. All right.
Exactly. I say the quality of the questions will determine the results. This is why I'm so focused. And there is a lot of times, I think as HRs, we need to give that pushback and let them know. Yes. Right? When people have come and said to me that, listen, can you architect this? I say, if this were an engineering project, this is something my CTO asked me. And I said, if this were an engineering project, do you think and it was at this level of an engineering project, right? That's something that, do you think you'd ask them to give it tomorrow? He said, no, it can't be done. I said, it's the same thing with HR also. So it will take its time. Don't expect you'll have it today and give it tomorrow.
One of the very critical skills as an HR is please think and then push it back, take some time. That's a very important thing that we need to do.
And let them know why you're pushing back also. This is something I've extensively done with the leadership team, especially, right? If I agree, I tell them why I agree. If I push back, I'll tell them, listen, I'm pushing back because of ABCD reason. So, have I gone on hold or is it Deepthi's?
No, we can hear you. I think.
Okay. Okay, I think Deepthi is connecting to the,
Sorry, guys. I mean, there could have been some network.
No problem, but I apologize to everyone for the delay. I didn't expect it. I think we should have made it a 1.5-hour session. Now I'm feeling very bad.
No, it was a beautiful topic and the discussion, the way it went. First and foremost, we're grateful to our esteemed speakers for sharing their expertise and insights with us. Your knowledge and dedication have enriched the gathering and provided us with valuable key takeaways to apply to
You're
our
insulting us by calling us speakers. Now you can say friends. It's okay. You gave me not say speakers at all.
Absolutely. To my dear friends, it was a beautiful session, a very enriching one. Thank you once again for being there. Probably we should ask Sahili, we want to do part 2 of this as well.
Happy to,
Yeah,
absolutely happy to.
I'm very happy.
I will be reaching out to you guys again and troubling you. And Saurabh, I really want those 5 questions that you mentioned because I think they'll be apt for every function and not just HRs.
Absolutely. We'll have to tweak it a bit for other functions. This is primarily from an HR point of view.
But love talking to you guys. I mean, it was a beautiful session.
Absolutely. And same here, you've been a great host. Thank you so much. And, we look forward to, coming back again some other day.
Yes,
thanks,
thank
Sasha.
You,
Thanks, Deepthi.
Thank you, Saili. And
Thanks,
thank you,
Saili.
Parskare, for this opportunity.
Yeah, bye-bye.